Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
We begin tonight with breaking news. A brush fire burning through dozens of acres in Ramona and threatening homes. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Evacuation orders and warnings have been issued in the area of San Vicente Road near Bunny Canyon, King Lane and Chuck Wagon Road. And that is where the fire started earlier today. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers is live at the CAL Fire Command Center now with the latest. Jacob, what can you tell us?
Hi, Maya. The blaze erupted shortly before 11:30 a.m. today, and as you can see behind me, it's blackened a ton of acreage here near Barnett County Ranch Preserve, threatening homes and prompting evacuations as crews fight the flames by ground and air. But the good news is that the spread has halted. So far, the fire has charred an estimated 184 acres as crews fought it on the ground and aboard air tankers and water-dropping helicopters, CAL FIRE Captain Mike Cornett said. We spoke to residents who had to be evacuated in CAL FIRE San Diego earlier this afternoon.
I've never experienced anything like this. It's a little scary, a little nervous. We just moved here, so it's like shocking, just a little.
It got to the point where the fire department and the police were into the property actually telling us that we needed to get out. So we were just able to grab all of our stuff, put it back into our car, and we've just been here waiting to see what happens.
Fire's currently at 184 acres, 5% contained. We stopped the fire at 3:08 this afternoon. The fire was dispatched at 11:20 and is grown to that size.
One firefighter has been injured and thousands of people have been impacted by evacuation warnings and orders, but no structures have been damaged. Authorities have established a temporary evacuation point at Olive Pierce Middle School in Ramona. Maya?
Thanks, Jacob, for that report. In Hawaii, 6 people have been killed as wildfires race through Maui. The flames are being driven in part by strong winds from a passing hurricane. Laura Aguirre has more on this ever-expanding disaster.
It's apocalypse. It's like straight out of the movie.
Many in Maui are under red flag warnings as suffocating smoke and fast-moving flames rage across the western edge of the island.
One of my houses definitely caught fire. The other houses are each a block away.
Challenging terrain along with forceful gusts up to 80 miles an hour at times are some of the factors hampering emergency crews. As flames moved in, some have taken desperate action.
Individuals jumping into the ocean, concerned for their safety. The U.S. Coast Guard retrieved them from the shoreline and took them to safety.
911 is down, cell service is down, phone service is down, and that's been part of the problem.
I still don't know where my little brother is. I don't know where my stepdad is. Everyone I know in Lahaina, their homes have been burned down.
Forecasters say Hurricane Dora, a Cat 4 storm passing nearly 800 miles southwest of Hawaii, is behind some of the high winds blowing across Maui. Another huge concern for state officials, tourists.
We're already working with a local airline to see if we can get tourists off the island to at least house them on another island like Oahu.
Terrifying. Hawaii has declared a state of emergency, and the White House says it's in contact with officials there. I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and we've been watching a bit of an increase here in some of the moisture, so you're feeling the humidity increase, plus could see a few showers and thunderstorms returning. I'll let you know when things are drying out and heating back up. That's all coming up.
City governments across the country are putting up the Help Wanted sign. They're looking for workers in a range of fields from public safety to sanitation. KPBS reporter Melissa May says there are close to 1 million public service job openings across the country, including many here in San Diego.
Good morning, everyone.
The American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, also known as AFSCME, brought its national Staff the Front Lines tour to San Diego today, calling on people to apply for public service jobs.
These are union jobs that come with strong rights and that come with strong protections. And these jobs are with a purpose. Jobs that allow you to serve a cause greater than yourself.
Lee Saunders is the president of AFSCME, representing 1.4 million members across the country.
For the everyday heroes currently in public service, whose jobs are more difficult because they don't have enough co-workers to help handle the load, we need to staff the front lines. More than 970,000 vacant jobs exist in the public service across the country, and this program is designed to deal with that, working with our friends, working with our elected officials.
And I want to tell you that if you raise your hand and come work for the city of San Diego, not only will you get the daily opportunity to make your community a better place to live, but you'll be rewarded with a good union job, with fair pay, great benefits, job and retirement security.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria says the city has also restored pensions and improved child care assistance. Tim Douglas is the AFSCME Local 127 president.
We work on a historic new contract that includes a 21% salary increase over the next 3 years, with an additional 10% salary increase for the majority of our union membership.
Epifanio Rocky Rios has been an electrician for 20 years and spent the last 12 years working for the city of San Diego.
The city provides security, benefits, at working for the union on the contracting side. You don't really get holidays, or if you miss time, you don't get paid. Working for the city, you obviously get those type of benefits. You get vacation days. There's tons of benefits to working for the city, which is what I love about it.
The Staff the Frontlines bus will stop and hold recruitment events in more than 20 cities across the country this summer. The city of San Diego lists its available jobs online at sandiego.gov/jobs. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The San Diego City Council appears uninterested in reviving a proposal to allow more townhomes and small apartment buildings in single-family neighborhoods. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
Mayor Todd Gloria tried to make use of SB 10, a state law that lets cities streamline approval of up to 10 homes on a single lot if it's near public transit. Supporters say it would help integrate San Diego's most exclusive neighborhoods with more lower-cost housing options. The proposal is on hold after the city's planning commission voted it down last week amid fierce opposition from homeowner groups. The city council has the power to revive it, but when contacted by KPBS, most council members either declined to comment or could not be reached by deadline. Councilmember Raul Campillo told KPBS he supports the Planning Commission's action to create a working group to engage directly on the issue to ensure they're making a fully informed recommendation to the mayor and city council. Councilmember Stephen Whitburn said he supports a package of other housing reforms that won Planning Commission approval last week, and that he'll continue working with the mayor and his council colleagues to make sure every San Diegan has a home they can afford in the city we all love. The city plans to hold workshops on SB 10 to try and craft a compromise, but city staff have not decided how many or when they'll take place. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
One South Bay organization says it's seeing more people in need of help since San Diego's homeless encampment ban took effect. The Community Through Hope in Chula Vista says even before the ban took effect, they were already busy. The organization typically saw 40 to 60 people per day. In the weeks leading up to the ban, that number went up to between 100 and 150 people.
That's a huge impact on a smaller organization like ours.
Do you think it's a direct effect from what's happening in the city?
Absolutely. Folks are expressing that they're from San Diego, that they had to move out of San Diego because of the ban. They're trying to do sort of so preemptively.
The City of Chula Vista spokesperson says staff will continue to work with partners to find ways to address the homeless crisis, and city staff are also currently reviewing policies for possible changes to be brought to City Council in the future. If Tijuana were in the United States, it would be the 5th most populous city in the country. But the border city's infrastructure has not kept up with its growth. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis examines the sometimes deadly consequences.
Tijuana is falling apart. The city has failed to keep up with decades of growth. Now its infrastructure is buckling under the weight of 2.2 million residents. This 3-story apartment building collapsed in April after a rainstorm. City officials are currently monitoring 12 other buildings at immediate risk of collapse. This is the result of heavy rain, shoddy and sometimes illegal construction, and lack of investment in public infrastructure.
So there's no prevention, and there's not also a way to modernize.
So says Carmen Romo. She's an activist with Tijuana Calidad de Vida. The group monitors Tijuana's failing infrastructure. Romo believes that the city could and should do more to prevent these catastrophes.
I mean, what's happened is that the city, it comes out with more reactive action on whatever it's already broken, but they don't actually have like these programs to rehab, modernize, and maintain.
Making matters worse is Tijuana's geography. The city is full of steep hills and deep canyons that are particularly vulnerable to deadly flash floods. The currents are strong enough to drag children into sewer drains and sweep cars off the road. Corpses regularly wash down to the bottom of canyons.
Just south of here, we found 2 teenagers who drowned.
Illegally built homes on hillsides add to the crisis. Experts say roughly 40% of all homes are built without permits. Many don't have a foundation or retaining wall. The hills don't have vegetation to prevent erosion. Juan Enrique Bautista Corona is director of Tijuana's Urban Development Department.
All of this is based on the fact that they don't respect the rules and regulations.
This is all happening while Tijuana is experiencing a housing boom that's partly fueled by Americans looking for more affordable housing options. Rents in Tijuana are among the highest in Mexico, and supply is limited. Bautista Corona says the city is doing what it can. Staff monitor homes at risk of collapse and ask residents to relocate.
Some people don't want to leave. Unfortunately, we can't remove them by force.
That dynamic shows why this problem is so difficult to solve, says Juan Manuel Rodriguez Esteves. He's a professor who's been studying this issue for decades.
It's a problem that looks simple from the outside, but gets complicated once you start looking at the details.
Rodriguez Esteves says that people are generally aware of the risks of living there, but they have more pressing concerns.
They're worried about getting to work on time, taking their kids to school, paying the rent.
But the city can't blame it all on illegal construction. It's also a matter of enforcing existing rules and regulations. That building that collapsed in April, it was approved by the city.
There are a lot of regulations in Mexico. The problem is no one enforces them.
Activists are not optimistic about Tijuana's ability to turn things around anytime soon.
Climate change is imminent. I'm sure that these rains are going to be the least of our worries. We need to be prepared.
Meanwhile, the crumbling continues. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
There's a vivid new vision for access to California's community colleges by the end of the decade. The state's chancellor of community colleges traveled to the South Bay this morning to unveil the long-term plan. KPBS education reporter MG Perez was there.
Southwestern College's superintendent and president did not mince words.
Over the last 30 years, 70% of students who enrolled at a California community college did not finish the goal that they had set for themselves.
Dr. Mark Sanchez says the statistic is even more discouraging for Latino, Black, and Filipino male students.
But not only getting them here, it's how we serve them when they get here to make sure that they get through to completion for whatever goal that they've set for themselves.
All of this news comes during the Vision 2030 gathering of education administrators, professors, and the state chancellor for the California Community Colleges herself. They want more equitable access for students from marginalized communities.
English is not my first language.
Joseph Awad is one of those students. He immigrated to California from Lebanon. He's learned English and is working on his education to become a psychologist someday.
A counselor suggested to me taking credit classes aside from the GED classes, and that really helped smooth my transition into the college life.
Awad took dual enrollment classes, which the state chancellor wants to start even earlier for every 9th grade high school student.
Dual enrollment with equity, which means we must have default systems that every 9th grader is in a college class, even if it's a 1-credit college class.
Dual enrollment is an important part of Vision 2030, the master plan to increase access, support, and the success for 1.8 million community college students across California. And that number is down by about 300,000 students since the COVID shutdown. On the Southwestern College campus today, there are students registering and filing for financial aid. Classes start here in a week and a half.
Personally, from a low-income family, this is one of the best options you can take, and I recommend it to anyone out there who wants to pursue an education.
You could use this as your stepping stone and then get to where you want to be next. You don't have to go straight to university first and, you know, be overwhelmed as a 17-year-old with all these debts and loans.
Those are not minced words either. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Finding childcare continues to be a struggle for many parents, but the city of San Diego is hoping to ease that burden. The city is looking into adding childcare at parks and recreation centers under voter-approved Measure H. The Office of Child and Youth Success says the pandemic forced many childcare providers to shut down, leaving a drastic shortage. They are surveying more than 40 rec centers to identify locations that have the potential to include licensed childcare. The goal is to begin offering those services in the fall.
When you finally do sit down and speak to other parents, it's laughable on how much we actually are struggling. There are parents out there that need something right now, not a year from now, 2 years from now. I think it's a good initiative. I think that it's a good idea. It'd be great. My second question would be, what are the costs?
Families can pay an average of $12,000 to $19,000 a year for licensed childcare. The Office of Child and Youth Success says costs and subsidies for programs at city rec centers will likely be determined on the location and needs of the community. Life is expensive right now as inflation backs off decades high peaks and interest rates drive up the price of loans, and that's taken a toll on credit card balances and retirement accounts. Karen Kaifa takes a look at the numbers.
Two new reports illustrate the toll of nearly 2 years of elevated inflation on households. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York said Americans' credit card debt passed the $1 trillion mark for the first time during the second quarter of this year. Overall household debt, which also includes mortgages, auto loans, and student loans, has climbed $2.9 trillion since the end of 2019 before the COVID-19 pandemic. And higher interest rates, the Federal Reserve's key tool to curb inflation, will make it harder to pay those debts down.
When interest rates rise, the debt that people hold gets more and more expensive, and that's certainly playing a role along with inflation and a few other things.
A second report from Bank of America found a surge in the number of Americans making emergency withdrawals from their 401k accounts. Another sign households are struggling to keep up. But households do have a strong labor market and easing inflation in their favor right now. Matt Schultz, chief credit analyst for LendingTree, says if consumers can, they should make debt payments a priority to protect finances for the future.
When you're in a situation like that, about the best thing you can do is knock down that debt that you have as soon as you can. It's a lot easier said than done when life is so expensive in 2023, but it's a really important thing to do.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Today marks 100 days since Hollywood writers went on strike. On Friday, writers and studios failed to reach an agreement to resume negotiations. Meanwhile, studios are gearing up for the fall season. Studios say while ratings and revenue may slump with the lack of new and returning series, they are saving money in the short term with most of production on hold. Scientists say severe weather the nation has endured in the past several years is costing the U.S. major money. So far this year, the U.S. has had 15 weather disasters that have each resulted in more than $1 billion worth of damage. And according to the National Centers for Environmental Information, that's the most billion-dollar disasters in a single year. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says the cost of weather-related damage between 2016 and 2022 totaled over $1 trillion.
Let's take a look at those weather headlines as the humidity continues to stay elevated, so we will keep a slight chance for a shower or thunderstorm into the forecast. Meanwhile, we're talking about drying and warmer conditions as we head into the weekend. Tonight's forecast brings us down to 69 in Oceanside. San Diego, you'll also drop into the upper 60s. Borrego Springs, though, not dropping below 75. In Mount Laguna, overnight temperatures into the upper 50s. What's our setup like for the day tomorrow? Well, mostly pleasant conditions. We'll still be tracking a few of the showers and thunderstorms moving in, especially further inland and throughout the mountains as we head into our Thursday. Looking at our temperatures for the day tomorrow, Oceanside up to 77, San Diego 75 degrees, Mount Laguna 60, and Borrego Springs seeing temperatures into the mid-90s for our Thursday. Friday, the heat starts to kick back up. Meanwhile, could still see a few thunderstorms a bit farther to our north. Otherwise, we keep a mainly dry pattern as we do head into the end of our week. Your 5-day outlook along the coast does bring some more clouds as we head into the day Friday. That humidity really sticks around, though. Temperatures into the mid to upper 70s over the next couple of days, and we'll see some more sunshine early into the week. Your 5-day outlook inland, temperatures stay warm into the 80s. Lots of humidity sticking around for Thursday. And then we'll see that sunshine on Friday and temperatures start to warm up as we head into the weekend. Low to mid 80s by the time we get into early next week. We take you into the mountains where temperatures are staying into the lower 60s. A bit of a breeze kicks in by later in the day on Thursday. Friday, low 60s as well, but notice that temperatures climb as we head into the weekend and the start of next week. Looking at what we can expect into the deserts where we've had a break from the triple-digit heat. That's going to continue as we head into Thursday and Friday, but then notice we've got temperatures well into the triple digits moving back in for next week. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
The nation's first ever electric tugboat and charging station are coming to San Diego's waterfront. Today, the Port of San Diego and Crowley Engineering Services broke ground on a charging station in Barrio Logan. The charging station will provide clean energy for the tugboat called E-Wolf. It's designed to operate during off-peak hours from the community's energy grid.
These projects, we're looking for a win-win-win. A win for the port and its businesses and our economy. A win for our portside communities. Better air quality, and a win for the environment, fewer greenhouse gas emissions.
The station also includes a solar power array to support renewable energy use. The technology is designed to support other electric equipment and vehicle operations if needed. After significant declines in routine vaccinations during the pandemic, global health officials say immunization numbers are inching back up. However, there are still millions of children missing out on vaccines that could save their lives. Mandy Gaither has more on why routine vaccines are critical.
It's a way to protect your health and guard against getting others sick.
Immunizations protect against severe disease and illness, disability, and even death.
Dr. Neha V.S. with Cleveland Clinic says for adults, routine vaccinations include a tetanus shot, shingles vaccines for those over 50 or immunocompromised. The CDC recommends 2 doses separated by 2 to 6 months. A vaccine protecting against pneumonia, along with an annual fall flu shot. She says to also make sure you're up to date on your COVID-19 vaccinations.
And a new one called the RSV vaccine, which is respiratory syncytial virus, and it's for adults ages 60 years and older.
For children, VIA says routine vaccinations also include tetanus, pneumonia, flu, and being up to date on COVID-19 boosters. She says meningococcal vaccines and the vaccine to protect against the human papillomavirus should also be given.
Children have a very strong immune response, so the younger they are, the more they can develop a healthy immune response.
There are also simple steps you can take to stay healthy beyond vaccines.
proper hand washing techniques, staying home when you're sick, and also don't forget to wear masks if you're around crowded areas and you're not feeling well.
For Health Minute, I'm Andy Gaither.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Biden issues an executive order limiting American investments in the Chinese tech sector, further straining relations. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Right now, we want to get back to that breaking news in Ramona, where a brush fire is prompting evacuations. And KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer joins us live near the scene with an update. Jacob.
The latest is still the same, 184 acres of fire here in Ramona. It's the Bunny Fire. And as you can see behind me, these firefighters are out here still fighting the blaze by ground and air. The blaze broke out near Barnett Ranch County Preserve, but the good news is that the spread is halted. So firefighters, just one firefighter has been injured, but no structures have been damaged. And now some roads are starting to reopen near the fire. 11,000 people received evacuation notices earlier, and all are being sent to a local middle school in order to come there to find a local evacuation point. Reporting live in Ramona, Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Thank you so much, Jacob, for that report. And we will continue to provide updates for you on the fire. And you can find that on our website, kpbs.org. And that is also where you will find the rest of the stories that you saw tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.